Hi, my name's Paul Grogan and welcome to my overview video for Maracaibo the Uprising, an expansion set to Maracaibo designed by Alexander Pfister and published by Games Up and distributed by Capstone Games. In this video I'm going to be giving you, as I say, an overview of what's included in the game and then going through the different ways that you can play the game with the modules that are included in there. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and leave me a comment. And also, if you want to support the channel directly and help contribute to me making more videos like this, then you can do so at patreon.com/gaming rules. Right, let's have a look at what you get in the box. Okay, so first of all are the new player boards. Now, these might look like dual layer boards, and in fact they are dual layer boards, but they don't come dual layer. What they've done is they found a nice way of giving you dual layer boards without actually making them dual layer in the box. The reason I'm saying that is quite often when a publisher creates dual layer player boards, the glue that they use ends up making these warps. You end up getting them and they tend to be warped. So what they've done is this actually comes as a fold out sheet, and what you do is you punch out these and then there's some sticky pads and you stick the sticky pads on and then you fold it closed, and in essence you've got dual layer player boards. As I say, they don't come like this, you have to make them. Now you will notice if you've played the original game, which I assume you have because this isn't a standalone expansion, you do need the base game to play it, that the art style is a bit different than the previous one. And we've also got these slots. Now let's talk about the board and let's talk about the slots. First of all, this slot here is where you will place the combat action. Now the reason why it isn't just printed directly on the board is some of the modules that we're going to see later on in the video will have you flip that over to the other side. A similar thing with this space here. In the base game you have one action that you can unlock that simply gives you 5 money, but when you're playing certain modules you will flip that over to this side with all extra stuff on it. The other thing to mention as well is this space here. Now the tile that goes in here is one of the home ports tiles, so I'm going to talk about the home ports now, which is one of the modules. There are 15 home port tiles included in the game, and if you are using this module, then what happens is at the start of the game you will shuffle these together. Each player will get 3 of them at random, and then out of those 3 you choose which one you're going to play with, and that home tile that you choose slots into your player board there and gives you an action that can be unlocked as normal. Now all of the home port tiles actually have two things on them. There is the immediate effect, you can see by the tan background, which is always to spend money to get a certain number of points. I think it's always 10 points. Yeah, it's always 10 points, but it's different depending on the tile. So for example, this one only costs 3 money to get 10 points instead of 4 to get 10 points. And then there is another action that you unlock. So once you've unlocked it, you get that as an immediate benefit and this as an ongoing benefit. Now, if you don't want to use the home ports, you can flip this tile over and the back of each of them is all exactly the same. You can see the back of all of these tiles is exactly the same, which is when you unlock it you gain 2 doubloons immediately and you have an extra compass icon. Now let's just have a look at the old player board for a minute, because there is something I want to tell you about the old player board. So this is the old player board, as you can see, different art style, and this action no longer exists. So if you want to play the base game but with the new player boards, you actually can't play the base game, the original base game. You cannot play the original base game as it is with the new player boards, and that is because this action has been removed. Now I've spoken to the designer about this, and this is an improvement to the game. This action was not used very often and only came in later on in the game, so the designer has actually changed that action. It no longer exists and it's been replaced by this one, which is, as I say, get 2 money immediately and another compass icon, which is much more useful. And if you're playing with the home ports module, that's where the home ports module goes. Right, that's the new player board. Let's talk next about the quest tiles. The expansion comes with a whole extra set of quest tiles, and you're thinking, well, wait a minute, Paul, these look exactly the same as the old ones. And you would be right. These new quest tiles are not exactly new quest tiles. What they are is the same quest tiles as before, but with different artwork on the back, because if you remember the rules, whenever you gain a quest tile, you put it face down on your board here. And if you were using the original ones, the artwork wouldn't match. So this is just an extra little bonus thing that they've added to the expansion so that you can put, the artwork matches for the quest tiles. So there we go. So nothing new in the quest tiles apart from the artwork has changed. Right, that's it for the new player boards. Next, we're going to move on to two new city tiles. And you can see that these are new tiles because they've got the U. In fact, everything with a U printed on it is from this expansion. So yeah, two new city tiles that you can use for 1 to 4 players, and you can mix them in with the original ones just to give you a little bit more variety. There are also 10 new legacy tiles. Now, I've got these face down because I don't want to give any spoilers, but similar to the legacy tiles from the original game, these are overlays that are going to go on the board either during the campaign or as part of a scenario setup, and they are going to change the board state and make it play in a different way. So as I say, I'm not going to show you any of these just in case you want to avoid spoilers. Next up are 22 hint tiles. Now, these are only used when you are playing one of the scenarios where you're trying to track down a freedom fighter and release her. So yeah, these are specific hint tiles. They are labelled as L38, but they are only used in one particular scenario. And then we have loads of new cards. So we have 36 new project cards. So these can just be added in to your normal decks, and these give a whole more extra range of different options and things. They're all fully explained in the rulebook, yeah, but yeah, lots of different ones there that you can shuffle in. We also have a whole bunch of new story cards. Well, story cards for the campaign, but also setup cards for each of the different scenarios, or whether you're playing without the story, different difficulty settings, yeah, different scenarios, and then the campaign. So yeah, the campaign I think is about the same size as the previous one. I've not played it yet, so we will find out. But yeah, whole load of new cards there. We have new cards for the Automa. So there is a new Automa, which is Jacques, and we have new Automa cards for Jacques. Now these are divided into A and B, which we'll touch on later on. And there are also 2 additional cards for the Jean Automa, which you can add in, again, just for something different. And there is 1 new career card as well, which is the Gaming Rules special one. So thank you very much to Games Up for that. The expansion introduces 5 new ways that you can play the game. First, there is an all-new campaign, which starts off with card 150. You can see this is chapter 1, and like the previous campaign, it has setup instructions, what legacy tiles you place on the board, where the quests start with, and then you just carry on playing the campaign. It will evolve over time, and the board will evolve with placement of new legacy tiles, very similar to the previous campaign, but with an all-new story. You don't have to have played the previous campaign in order to play this one. Unrest is a scenario in which the European nations all start off in control of the various locations on the map, and players are going to be using their combat points to remove those cubes instead of adding the cubes. When you're playing this scenario, you flip over both your combat action tile and your resistance tile before the game starts, as they contain the action which you're going to be using in this particular scenario. The combat action tile is essentially similar to before, except you are spending combat value points to remove the cubes from the board instead of adding them onto the board. And if you remove a cube from a city, you get whatever was in the flag from that city. The resistance tile, which is down here, is actually divided into 2 parts. The top part is the normal thing that you will get when you unlock it, but the bottom part is actually available even before you've unlocked the top part. And what this is space where you can store the cubes. So whenever you remove a cube from the board with one of these actions, you actually place it on one of these 4 spaces here and get the bonus printed on there immediately. Now, once you've filled it up with cubes, then you can remove all the cubes, get 3 money, 1 point per combat token, and then you can start putting cubes on again. But if you look carefully, there is a not equals to sign between each space, so you cannot put 2 cubes of the same colour next to each other. And because in this scenario you're actually removing the nation's cubes from the board instead of gaining them, then there isn't actually any end of game scoring for influence in the nations. What that means is whenever you would gain influence with one of the nations, you simply just gain 2 points instead. The all-inclusive scenario uses the home port and the resistance tile, but it also uses the Uprising module, which basically means you place legacy tile L40 next to the board at the start of the game, and this changes the combat action for the game. So now, during the game, after you've revealed a combat token, you can choose to fight for or against the nation. If you choose to fight for the nation, you resolve the combat just as you would have done in the base game. But if you choose to fight against the nation, then you use the new combat actions here, which is basically liberating a city or liberating a village. The other thing with this scenario is that you see this information here. Well, this is a way of randomly placing certain legacy tiles on the board at the start of the game. And what that means is every time you play this scenario, it's going to be slightly different because of the legacy tiles used. Cooperative in the Caribbean is the first of 2 cooperative scenarios included in the expansion. Like in Unrest, the European nations actually start with cubes on the board, and the number of cubes that they start with depends on the number of players in the game. You also have a random setup of legacy tiles, as mentioned just in the previous scenario, to make every game slightly different. Now in this scenario, you also play with Jacques. Jacques is the new Automa, and his deck will contain a mixture of A and B cards depending on the difficulty level that you've chosen. And what's going to happen is after all players have taken a turn, you will reveal the top card from Jacques' deck, and then you will perform the action based on which card this is that's been revealed this round. So if this is the first card that's revealed in a round, you will do action number 1. If this was the second card revealed, you'll do action number 2, and so on and so forth. All the cards revealed at the end of the round will go to the bottom of the deck. Now, the number 20 action, which on this card will do if it was the 6th or the 7th card, this is quite clever because Jacques doesn't actually have a boat on the board, but this action simulates that Jacques has reached space 20, and what that means is all other players are going to get one more turn in the game, unless it was the last round of the game, in which case all other players will get 2 turns. Now, in the Cooperative in the Caribbean scenario, you have 2 objectives. You have to remove every single cube from the board. If you don't do that, you lose the scenario. And also, Jacques is going to score victory points during the game, based on how many cards he's been through each round and certain other things. And if all players at the end of the game have to score more points than Jacques, if they don't, then you lose the scenario. The last scenario is also cooperative, and this is the rescue. Again, you will start off with cubes on the board and random legacy tiles depending on the number of players in the game, but your objective in this scenario is to try and find where Freedom Fighter Lusa is being held and then free her. And this is done by the hint tokens that we mentioned earlier on. So these hint tokens will be scattered around the board at the start of the game, and if you go to a location that has a hint token there, then before your main action you can take the hint token, and what you will do is you will place it onto this card. So if it's a red token, it goes on a red space. If it's a green token, it goes on a green space. Once all of the green spaces are filled, you then flip this card over and you have found where Freedom Fighter Lusa is being held captive. You will then need to rescue her, and you will need to do other stuff that's printed on the back of this card that I'm not going to show you because I don't want to give too much away. Now, to win this scenario, you need to do all 3 of the following. You need to remove all cubes from the board, you need to have found and rescued the Freedom Fighter, and also in this scenario, Jacques is in the game as well. So you're also playing against Jacques in this scenario, and again, like before, all players must score more points than Jacques in order to win the game. And there we go, that's just a rough overview of everything that's included in this expansion. I've actually got some playthrough videos planned for this. I will be later this week doing a 3-player playthrough using the Cooperative in the Caribbean scenario, and I do have plans to do some of the other scenarios later on. As mentioned at the start, if you enjoyed this video, please give the video a thumbs up and leave me a comment. And a big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters who help fund the channel. If you want to support the channel directly, you can do so at patreon.com/gamingrules. Until next time, take care and thanks for watching.